Gonna proc it now. Gonna proc it now. By Jackson Aurelia. Jackson Aurelia. Gonna proc it now. Gonna proc it now. Proc it. Jackson Aurelia. T-Force.
Welcome to the rework of the T-Force. Now we going hard cause we bumping at the beat source. It's a 3-course dinner of dudes bringing the news and stats, interviews and casts from the pro scene. So fresh and so clean, like you're leaning with Nami in the bot lane. Keep it hot like brand, practicing his dot game. Give it to you easy like you're Resi in a bot game. Imagine Draven at prime time. Now ulti like LeBlanc can copy that 4 times, but manlier. Knock it up like now fight planning a family-er. You gotta be tuned in like Sona on the ad wall. Get on the chat call. Can a podcast really be all that? Of course. How do 4 guys make a Triforce?
Hey guys, welcome to Trinity Force Podcast. This is episode number 263. My name is Adam Ponophobia Cogswell, and I know you missed my sultry voice after a long Memorial Day weekend. So thank you for everybody.
I know I did.
Ooh, yes. So thank you everyone for your service, past and present. We very much enjoyed celebrating it. I know I thanked all of the people that in my life that I could thank that are serving, and thank you to Claude as well.
Oh yeah, and the Memorial Day weekend was all about those who made the ultimate sacrifice. So just hopefully everybody took a moment to remember and appreciate it. And enjoy the freedoms of barbecuing that they helped allow.
Enjoy the freedoms that you have, which is barbecuing and eating whatever you would like, whether it's meat or vegetables.
Yep.
So a few things before we jump into patch 5.10. First and foremost, guys, thank you so much for all of your support with Patreon. After that long weekend, we hit $700 a month. I think that's like $693. But that is going, assuming that this all goes through, you know, like everyone's credit card is properly charged, we actually make that amount, we'll be able to start purchasing the CDN, the Content Delivery Network. Now, I did look more into that Content Delivery Network, and that is going to be European and North American based. So it's centralized Europe, but you're still going to get faster download speeds than if you were sitting in Australia downloading from Virginia, because our current data center is out of Virginia. It's Ashburn, Virginia. So, you know, you're paying to get better download speeds if you're a European listener, and especially an American listener, because it's that data center is going to be all over America. It's not just in Virginia, so everybody's going to have faster download speeds with that. That's pretty awesome. Does that affect like listening through Stitcher or TuneIn? Mm-hmm. They should all download. I mean, I don't think maybe stream better because they take it from us, but do they? I don't know how they do it. I don't think they do. Interesting. Okay. I think it hits the iTunes feed or hits our RSS feed and pulls from our. That's pretty awesome if it does. Yeah, it should. But I don't actually know how iTunes works. Someone smarter than me will be able to tell me that. I do know that after this last weekend, I have started to realize that, you know, the numbers that we have that we bolster to sponsors and stuff are actually higher than what we talk about, because I can't accurately track all our numbers. Because, for example, we are now, another announcement, we are now on TuneIn Radio. So if you use tunein.com or use that app, we are now on that. All 4 podcasts are. And when I went on there was like 50 people listening to the Oz LOL podcast on there at once, and that was not reflected in the numbers. You know, I know it comes preloaded on a lot of Android devices. Yes, apparently it's supposed to be better than Stitcher. Like, it doesn't lag. And yeah, I've used it. I've used it. It's pretty good. Do you like it? I do. By the way, before more shout outs here, thank you for everybody's. I see a lot of new people here in the chat. They're saying that I normally listen to the podcast. You guys are awesome. You know what? You're awesome, buddy. Thanks for listening. I look like shit today. You guys are the awesome ones. But anyway, I'm not in chat right now, but. Yeah, if you want to donate to the Patreon and you want to help us out, push forward, you can go to trinityforcenetwork.com/Patreon or patreon.com/TForce Network. At $10 a month, you do receive a special podcast from us. You will receive all of our Champion Select podcasts. And now, if you are downloading this or listening to this on the only way you're not going to hear that is if you got YouTube, because I didn't push that to YouTube. But I did push the Aurelia podcast out to iTunes and Stitcher and everybody last week. So everybody should have heard that podcast. And we are looking for feedback. We realize it's not perfect, and we're going to try to make it as perfect as we can based on all of your feedback. So please, feedback@trinityforcepodcast.com. Let us know, anything from price point to, what the content is. We're going to make our decisions, but nothing besides changing how the podcast functions is going to be done with haste. Does that make sense?
Thank you to all the people who came out and donated and continue to support us, because it makes our lives immensely easier. Right. The turnout on Patreon was amazing. Pretty great for a week. I'm humbled. You guys are great. Yeah, that is awesome. And you know what? It just motivates me. And I tell my wife, hey, maybe we're getting to the point where,
like can start seeing a little bit of that, maybe a little devices here and there or something, and she's a little bit, she's impressed. She was like, wow, that's pretty impressive. Yes. Your podcast is making money now instead of just a fun little hobby that you do. And I have to lock away in your room for a little bit and I get pissed off at you. So
you sound like my, I'll use air quotes, wife, my girlfriend. She says pretty much say the same thing. It's like, she's like, wow, this is actually like, this is turning around something, and you're actually seeing something for it. Now, while it's not going in my pockets, it is going to the network's pockets. And some of that money that is coming back out, we are going to be at Summoners Con. 100%, we're going to be at Summoners Con. More details to follow.
I'm going to do my damnedest to make it.
Yes, but most of the proper should be there. So if you're going out to Los Angeles in November, we will be at Summoners Con. More details to follow within the next couple of months. We'll have like the final concrete stuff, but we'll be there. So that, another big thing with the network.
Super excited. That's really cool.
Last announcement before we jump into patch notes, because there's a lot here and there's a lot more I want to talk about. We have some donations that came in, but I don't have those. I will read those off on Monday, just normal donations. Because we still do. If you don't want to do Patreon, you don't want to give us per month, trinityforcepodcast.com/donate. We'll take your money. We like it. We like to use it. We like to give it back to you.
and you'll get a shout out on the episode that we acknowledge it.
We like to take that money and try and turn it around to make better audio magicianry.
And every time we have. The last announcement is this is a formal challenge to the LCS Rundown guys to finish our best of 3 games that we started way back a year ago.
Oh, that's right. It was best of 3. We only did 2 sets.
We've done 2 sets, and we're 1-1 in the sets. Now we've had new people come in, and they've had new people come in. So this is really like the tiebreaker. And these aren't like like batting heads together, butting heads together, or whatever. These are still fun, but we're going to do them in a best of 3 5v5 format and tournament draft. So LCS Rundown guys, let us know. We want it.
It'll be fun for us, the winners.
Yeah.
And before Mitch plays nothing but Corky or Nartop.
Both are banned. And then if Sepha plays Zed, banned. If Sepha's on the team, Zed banned.
Optimus Tom versus Optimistic Punch.
Well, no, Optimus Tom will probably play Jinx. Wait, we know everything they play. This is no fun. Not like it's hard to know what we play either. If you listen to either podcast, you'll find out. So, guys, LCS Rundown. You guys know that I've challenged you. I want to hear the official acceptance of the challenge on episode 64 of your podcast. So there it is. Guys, let's jump right into patch 5.10 that did hit today.
Let's do it.
And there are a number of changes. We are going to spend a lot of time talking about mastery changes and karma changes. But before we get to those, the big chunk of the patch, I want to get through all the small little changes that happened first and foremost. Kind of like a warm-up for all of us. So Akali has been changed. I need to move this over here so I can actually read it. Akali has been changed. It's kind of funny. We talked about how we had like all this. We had this really long string of talk about Akali. I think Punch and Chira were on that show, and how we were like, well, it makes her better, but we didn't realize that that it pushed her too far away to be able to auto attack. Like the jumping behind pushed her 50.
Yeah, the idea was for her to get easier auto attacks off. So
didn't do that.
Whoops.
Yeah, whoops. Basically, they have changed it so that they've given 50 distance back. So when you jump through the target, you are 100 units away rather than 150. So you are in range to auto attack or you're in range to Q and auto attack.
Well, I guess it's more complicated than that. If your target has been marked with your Q, then you are only 100 distance away. Mm-hmm. Whereas if they aren't marked with your Q, then you're 200 distance away. I personally didn't know there was a difference between whether or not they were marked.
Yeah, I didn't know that either. So you come out closer if they're marked, and you go to the maximum distance if they're not marked?
Correct.
Right.
And both distances have been lowered by 50.
Interesting. Even if you're at the max range of it, you would go through further.
But how is that 50% less path through distance? Does Ryan not know how to do math? Because I'm pretty sure removing 50 from 150 isn't 50%.
Because they're averaging the two.
Okay. Sure.
Instead of saying 50%, per minimum, and then 50% from, or 25% for minimum, 25, whatever. They're just saying 50% overall. And you're getting it back.
Maybe the percent sign was a mistake, and they just meant 50, because that's what it is. It's just 50 less distance.
Yeah, I kind of feel like it has to be a... actually, nickname my pointing out in chat that
it says both of them are under the marked by mark of the assassin. Minimum and maximum. So I think it's based on what you click. or how far they are from your actual ult. It's a minimum and maximum for both marked by mark of assassin. It's not saying ones that aren't.
No. In the description above, it says if a colleague queues somebody, Shadow Dance will bring her much closer to them. Otherwise, all of her R dashes are slightly closer in general.
Right, slightly closer.
So compared to before, her regular R dash is going to be slightly closer in general, and if you queue them, you're going to be even closer than you were before both of those.
Much closer. Right.
Okay. Regardless, you're closer.
Okay.
It doesn't matter. You get closer to them. You hit R and you get closer to hugging, but you're not quite hugging. It's really awkward.
TLDR, she was broken, as in bad broken, because she couldn't finish her combo, and now she should be able to finish her combo. So
yeah, people are saying in chat that the mark thing is the Q thing is new.
I hate her ultimate.
Yeah, I still don't see. I mean, Akali's got to snowball pretty hard to make her good right now. So we'll see. Cassiopeia, sure. she got a change in this as well. Passive aspect of the Serpent at 100 stacks. Twin Fang heals for 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16 with 0.1 ability power. That was old. It is now the same rank, per you put in 6, 8, 12, 10, or 6, 8, 10, 12, with 0.06 ability power. So they've reduced the amount, the passive amount. Yeah, the passive heal scaling that she receives.
Probably a good thing because it was pretty ridiculous.
Well, it's a little tweak. It's a little lever they're pulling there. Right. We'll see how it affects her.
Well, just kind of looking at it, it really is for that late game Cassiopeia because she's machine gunning ease and gaining back
significant portions
of her life. So between that, Seraph's Embrace and Sonya's, if you picked it up, to be able to wait for cooldowns to poison and start spamming machine gunning or ease again, that you were nearly unkillable because you were drain tanking somebody essentially.
Well, it was also a situation where if you weren't able to get that kill, her sustained damage wasn't even necessarily a sustained damage late game. It was sustained burst, and she was going to kill you if you couldn't give her.
Yeah, I really don't. The healing aspect of it was never the OP-ness for me. It's always been the machine gunning of ease.
On the poison.
The insane damage.
Yeah.
Anyway, you said OP-ness. The way to look at it, at 400 ability power, it was healing for 40 every Twin Fang. Now it's going to heal for 24. That's just one way to put it into perspective.
That's a good way to put it in perspective.
So
it's having.
You were getting 40 every time you smacked it. Now you're getting 24 every time.
So it's essentially having the healing about it.
Approximately.
But guess what? The damage is still there.
Yeah. This seems like a pretty small change when you think about how quickly she kills people.
So continue the murder spree, friends.
Yeah, but to put a nail in the coffin or a stake in the coffin, or whatever you want to say, of the Twin Fang. Stake in my boot. To stop top Cassiopeia from being so prevalent, they have changed Twin Fang. If Twin Fang kills the target, it refunds its mana cost plus 3%, now to 1.5%. So it only refunds half of what it previously did when Twin Fang killed the target, because you were last hitting with Twin Fang in lane to keep your mana sustained to be able to have an easy time last hitting, so you didn't have to deal with her auto attack animation. And that really is more of a nail in the coffin of top lane Cassiopeia, because top lane can't leave lane as readily or as easily. And
it still sounds like it refunds its full mana cost.
It does. It does.
But you were going to be
back previously.
The additional amount.
The difference is going to be that a lot of times in those situations when you're going to spit those E's out, you may want to throw poison down anyway, so you can continue to if you throw your W down in one spot, you could last hit 3 minions, and yes, you're going to be able to get the mana back from that. But before, it was almost a wash for mana, so now it's going to be one of those situations where you might use up more mana than you would otherwise. But from what I've been seeing from a lot of Cassiopeia builds, that's not that big of an issue. As soon as you get, I've seen a ton go Seraphs, and you'll never have to worry about mana again. Or if you want to go Athenes, probably won't have to worry about mana. She's building in a way where mana becomes a non-factor in the late game anyway, for the most part. So
to be fair, most AP carries, unless your name is Syndra, most AP carries in the late game have enough mana to be able to do a bunch of rotations of their spells or whatever they may be. Cass, this is like a lane cast change, so that she can't sit in lane forever, spamming her abilities such as to poison them to do damage and then go back to last hitting, gain all your mana back, kind of like an Annie and a Q. The difference is Annie has to trade off a stun with her passive to be able to keep, to last hit with her Q. So you had to have some kind of trade-off.
Let's put this one in perspective too. At 2,000 mana, the old way was giving you it was giving you Twin Fang's mana cost back plus 60. Now it's doing that plus 30 because it's half, 1.5 of 3%. So you're getting 30 extra bonus mana instead of the 60 for everything that you kill. So that's just a way to adder it up.
I see what you did there.
Sneaky snake, huh?
just bring her back in line with others. Yeah, I kind of agree with people that are talking in chat here as well. They're all saying that it doesn't really matter after the first back, after she gets her first major mana item or gets her first major damage.
And it hasn't for a long time. Like, you're already building that mana on her. Mana becomes such a non-factor once you get your tier, as long as you're using your E intelligently.
It does so much damage. You don't have to machine gun that many of them out there before you get them running away or dead.
Well, we'll move on to Gragas since there's a lot more to talk about in this patch. Body Slam. Moving collision radius has been reduced to 180 from 200 and end collision radius 250 to 210. Essentially, they've taken the radius that it was outside of the Fat Man's body and they've reduced it to look like the Fat Man.
Like his belly's hitting.
Which is good because you could hit people in situations where you were max distance E-ing and they weren't that close to you. You were still hitting them. So
it's always frustrating when you get hit by an ability, but it doesn't look like you got hit by that ability.
Right.
So Morgana Binding, Zenith Blade, which gets fixed, Nidalee Sphere, Thresh Hook.
We'll get to some of those.
Thresh Hook needs it.
All right, Nidalee Sphere I think has been addressed too.
Like Hook over here? Nope.
Even when they narrowed it every once in a while, it still looks like it doesn't clip you and it will chunk the hell out of you.
I was going to say, I don't really care about Nidalee Spheres because, they still hurt, but they don't hurt as much as they used to, so it's not as big of a deal to get clipped by one as it was.
They have been narrowed, though, which is nice because now you can kind of, weave through minions and stuff with it a little bit better. You can make better plays with it.
Thread that needle.
Sure, right. Thread the needle. Less margin of error for people who fuck it up, but you can thread the needle for the people who are really good with it.
This change isn't going to do anything but trim the bottom line of players that are playing it by a little bit.
Like with Nidalee. Yep. I agree with you 100%.
A little bit less engage range, but yeah.
It's like the players who aren't used to playing Gragas or aren't already pinpointing their accuracy. It's going to trim that bottom line a little bit, and the players that are really good that are playing it just have to adjust a little bit.
Yeah, it's going to be annoying. You're going to have to get used to it. It's going to get, damn it, you're going to miss it a couple times, but then it should be fine. Kind of like with Pantheon's Ultimate, the timing and everything. It was annoying at first, but now I don't even remember what the old Ultimate was like.
I think this actually, even though this changed, there's a change later in here that's not actually going through with 510. There's a Sejuani change that if you read the flavor text, they're like, oops, it didn't actually go through.
Yeah.
But as soon as that Sejuani change goes through, I think Gragas moves into number one slot. And unfortunately, there's a Rek'Sai change later in this patch where I think they have completely they started to murder the or not a bug. What is she?
A Void Beast.
A Void Beast. But anyway, we'll get to that. Long conversation here about Jinx, I think. And Punch, I know he read quite a bit about that.
I think we should transition really quick to Leona because it's kind of similar to Gragas.
Should we run down Leona, Lulu, Rek'Sai, and then go back and Sejuani and roll back up to the bigger changes?
Sure, let's do it.
But Leona is so similar to Gragas' change. Her missile width on her Zenith Blade, her E, was
smaller now, so she's probably not going to be able to clip you as easily.
Matches the sword.
Yep.
Hooray!
So.
It's good.
They're matching up the visuals. Which
I have definitely recalled within the last 2 months, probably out loud. I want to say it wasn't, but hey, I say that a lot. Gone. How the hell did that hit me?
Yeah.
Isn't that every ability that anybody ever lands on you?
Yeah, that is something you say a lot. Yeah. But that is something I have also said for Zenith Blade.
Also for the Leona players who hit E a little bit too eagerly, and they're like, oh, I hope it doesn't hit. Hopefully it'll save you a little bit because then you won't be pulling yourself into that danger.
The death trap.
I would I would really like it if the animation matched the actual cast range. That is my dream, Riot. It's a beautiful thing.
Causes less rage. It causes you to play better because you're not raging as much. Huge change. Huge change. Good job, Riot.
Lulu, General. Base mana regeneration has been increased to 8.5. However, the mana regeneration growth stat has been decreased to 0.6. So she has more mana regeneration, but less mana, a smaller mana pool. They're trying to...
Well, no. More mana regeneration early.
Oh, sorry, I read that as mana regeneration growth rate. I thought that mana pool.
It just doesn't grow as much as she levels up. So it will help the support lane, but then the solo lane, it'll pretty much balance out.
They're trying to shift power away from Lulu mid. I think they want to continue to push her more toward that support, but they kind of realize that she's never going to be a support.
I play her as support.
I saw
have a lot of success with her. And yeah, I mean, I like this change. Early on, I've always had to watch my mana. Like, oh, I'm poking too much. Now I gotta sit around and wait.
Well, it's so satisfying when you get the double Q on somebody too. Like, you want to poke all the time.
Yeah, you just want to poke more. Yeah. And then you run out of mana and you're sad.
Yep. and then you're sitting there like, man, I wish I could use one of the potentially like great abilities that I'd be able to use on either the enemies or my teammates if this situation arose, but so sad.
I don't understand though why this change wouldn't help out Lane Lulu because we're talking about how she can spam earlier so she can do more damage so that she could be a bigger bully, and that's really when Lulu is the best, is within the first 11 levels.
You can't really spam. It's more support because with the base mana regeneration, you know, the way you're using your abilities, you're not chunking them out as much as you are in the mid lane, where this isn't really going to help you too much because you're going to boom yourself if you're playing that way anyway. I think it's more situational. You hold on to a certain ability for certain things. You notice that mana regeneration increase ticking on support roll, but mid, when you're using all your abilities, your mana bar is still depleting just as fast. But it does help. In the background, I think it does help, but it's not as noticeable.
I look at this and I say this helps out the lane Lulus more than it helps out the support Lulus.
I don't know if I agree with that. I do agree with, I don't know if this necessarily hurts the lane Lulu, because I'm thinking that as a support, I'm casting probably as many spells as I would I be a solo lane Lulu. As a support, I'm casting spells all the time.
Because you play her very
Although, I guess the solo lane Lulu will be trying to poke more with Q, which I wouldn't be trying to do that with support.
Or trade.
During a siege.
Or just putting your E up on a minion to, you know, say, hey, I can hit you with double Q at any point in time if you try to CS. That type of thing.
And use CS, use abilities to CS to help you CS.
I'm thinking more in terms of like late game sieging, which is when this growth stat will really kick into effect.
I thought this is when it will balance out. Because the growth stat was increased base, or I'm sorry, the base was increased, but the growth stat was decreased, so it should.
She should have less. She should have less regen later. Is what I'm saying.
It'll hurt her, right? It'll hurt her in the late game.
So I'm trying to think of who casts more spells later, support or solo lane Lulu. I know during a team fight, you probably cast just as much.
I'm sure it's just as much for both people. Both roles will do the same thing.
Use them all.
Because at the end of the day, you're just a support in another lane. You're a support that does damage.
But by then the mana hopefully won't matter as much. That's just sustained team fights.
It might matter less for the solo lane. Maybe you're right. Maybe this helps out solo lane
I think this helps out solo lane Lulu more than it helps out support. I mean, it helps out support Lulu a ton, don't get me wrong, but I think allowing you to be a bigger bully earlier into the mid game where it starts to balance out helps out solo lane Lulu more than it helps out support.
Interesting.
But think about it. Mana regeneration growth stat was decreased by 0.2. Her base mana regeneration was increased by 2. So what is that, 10 levels? 2.5.
Well, so, I mean, the growth stat isn't linear, keep in mind. That increases over time per level.
Yeah, okay.
So I don't know how that math works out anymore.
I think we're overanalyzing it. We'll see how it feels.
This is probably one of those times I should have done the math.
We do that. That's what we do.
It is.
Well, you know what? I'm going to overanalyzing more nails on the coffin. RIP Rek'sai. My top lane BC Rek'sai that I had Chira play that I love to death is kind of like getting gutted this patch with base health has been reduced from 611.2 to 570. A 41.2 base health reduction.
That 0.2 makes all the difference.
That's more than 3 points in veteran scars in the defensive tree.
That is a crazy amount of life to lose
at
level 1 to 3. Well, especially it's essentially. I mean, it hurts her first clear. Yeah, I think you have to have be a little bit more defensive, like in your runes, or you have to be a little more defensive in your masteries. It's going to be hard to run 21-9 without a lot of help early.
Well, and they say one of the major reasons they wanted to make this change was because they wanted to reduce the reliability of her level 3 ganks, and that's definitely going to help out with this.
Oh yeah,
because she's not going to have a level 3 gank anymore.
Perfectly.
No more level 3 ganks.
Reduce the reliability of heads or kill.
Destroy.
Completely eliminate. Yeah.
Make the decision. Should I gank at level 3? Hell no.
Can't do it, too low health.
For this 40 life, I played against the Xin Zhao top lane.
41.2.
Rek'sai. 41.2, sorry.
Yeah, get it right, Adam.
Thanks for the clarification.
Thank you, the point 2. The 41.2 life, I did a full all-in trade at level 3 with the Xin Zhao in the top lane, and granted I had a potion rolling, but I want to say I walked away from that fight with 50 life. Now, that 50 life could have gone either way based on if they were running a crit rune or they had different masteries. They started for da-da-da-da-da. Like, that trade at level 3 was in my favor by an auto attack. And this is one auto attack of life.
Now you have 8.8 life walking away from you.
I don't like messing with those margins. That's terrible.
Punch had to make his point too.
That 8.8 life. At least I walked away and I won. But there's like this. Everyone knows that plays this game that understands how trading works. That there's a threshold that you kind of start to get. You have like that sweat bead that rolls down your face, but you know how many abilities the enemies use, and you're like, I know the cooldown is this many, and I don't mind. I hope mine comes back up, and I have the lag. You know what I'm saying? Everyone knows that the calculations they go through their head. That's what's gonna happen now with me. I'm like, should I leave this fight?
I always have that bead of sweat going down my head, worrying when I'm in the threshold. When he cues me.
That's a death sentence.
I'm worried that I'm going to die.
Every single one of these puns is a death sentence for you. Sejuani has not had a change in this patch, but has had a change. It's
right.
So what they want to change is Flail of the Northern Winds. Bonus magic damage was 4, 5.5, 7, 8.5, 10% of target's maximum health. If you didn't know, that's what made Sejuani giant beast perma-ban worthy, was that she was just chunking you for percentage of your life with an auto attack.
This meta where everybody gets this inner Hulk and wants health. So she's negating that, which is nice. But
4, 4.5, 5, 5.5, 6. They're basically just they're knocking her down from tier S to tier A.
Which is what they said they did last patch.
Or they will be.
Yeah, or they will be. Heads up. Due to behind-the-scenes mistakes, we only changed Sejuani's tooltip and not her actual in-game design.
So get your Sejuani games in while you can.
Yes.
She'll still be good afterwards.
Or don't, because she'll still be bad.
So now the word's out. Everyone knows.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's going to be permanent. You're right, Punch. You're not going to be able to get her in.
So the boar is the word? I wish it was a bird, so I could say the bird is the word. I'm so mad.
Shut up.
I try.
Stop.
Stop. Is the ward.
The ward?
The boar is the ward?
Is there such one ward?
I'm not good at this.
There's so much forced bullshit.
Yeah, but you're gorgeous.
Scion bug fix. Fix the bug where unstoppable onslaught with scaling the target's bonus attack damage instead of Scions.
Yeah, what the hell is that?
I don't even know how that happens.
I don't even know how I would have noticed that or not. Maybe I've seen it's not done.
You know what, Bug? I still want to know what was going on. Anybody remember that time I was running straight at a wall and somehow turned 90 degrees on a dime?
They addressed that, remember?
Yeah. If you pressed H, if you
I didn't press H.
No. They said before there was a bug. Last patch or the patch before, there was a bug where you could pretty much move freely with his ult sometimes. I've never experienced it myself. I'm glad you did.
It was the best thing. I hit somebody out of it.
I watched him go whoop, poof.
I was running directly at a wall and ended up shooting the gap between a turret and hitting a couple people. It was great.
Turn on a dime.
Taric changes. Imbue cost 60, 80, 100, 120, 140 down to 67, 80, 90, 100.
And Frown Power is everywhere rejoicing.
And Frown Power is happy. Everybody. He does have. I think he does have quite a bit of sustain with Imbue if you can max the Q and you don't need the extra on W. I have seen some Tarics do some kind of funky stuff in lane just because W gives enough armor. But Taric's still niche pick because how many full AD teams do you go against that Taric's passive is worthwhile?
I've seen him a lot more recently, at least with the mid assassins coming
sucks.
What was that?
His ultimate sucks.
Oh,
yeah,
what?
It is.
But doesn't it give so many free stats?
It gives a ton of free stats.
To him?
Yeah. It's like, I'm the support, but now I'm not.
But now I'm going to chase you.
Yeah.
What? Radiance. Taric slams his hammer into the ground and deals damage to nearby enemies. For a time after Taric's gem Radiant, power Taric and his allies with bonus attack damage and ability power. So yeah, granting 30, 50, 70 attack damage and ability power. It still sucks.
So good!
It still sucks. It's kind of like the Ardent Sensor change where if he uses it, you don't know you got it, so it sucks. Anything that you don't know you have or you don't have some kind of Q that you have, it sucks. I don't care how good it is.
What if
sucks.
What if instead he yelled out something instead of a shattering noise, which is usually what happens, right? What if he yelled something like, I threw my gems on you. Let's go, or something.
It's just like Bard's Q.
You should just say, you have more damage.
Yeah. Just say, go in.
Okay, to address anybody in chat, I realize it's actually good, but it sucks because you don't know you have it. Like in a team fight, unless you know to pay attention for it, you don't know you have it. That's why it sucks. So you all can fuck off if you think I'm ignorant or whatever over here. I understand that 50, 70 or 50, 60, 70 damage or attack damage in Devour is fucking awesome. Don't get me wrong. Tarek still
15,
sucks.
25, 35 to allies.
I don't give a fuck what it is. We're going to move on. Chiro over here stoking the flames. He's like, ah!
To put it in perspective, that's like
Anarchy.
Punch gets a free pickaxe and a longsword while this
okay with that.
Yeah, and you know what? Leave it to the person who plays AD carry all the time to be like, yeah, Tarek's ult's so good because he's realistically the one who's going to see it the most. Whereas Adam, who's not playing that unless he gets forced in the role and cries every time he has to play it.
Adam.
Yeah, Adam, with the Tarek on your team so that you can do some interesting stuff.
We played ranked 5s this weekend, and I played Malachi top, and I forgot how fucking awesome Malachi was because I haven't played him in forever. Because I was soloing bitches as well. Every game I was like 7-0 or whatever because he's OP as fuck. Anyway,
he's still badass.
He's so good. He does so much damage. All right, we're gonna move on to actually talk about the patch notes because I'm too busy over here jerking myself off over how awesome Malachi is.
Wow.
I've only had 4 beer and they're only Bud Lights. Okay, we're gonna talk about Karma changes.
We skipped over Jinx. You want to touch on her fast?
Yes, I actually want to go back to. I want you to talk about Jinx because you had read what the Reds had said about her, right?
It's kind of weird.
Punch.
I did.
I could have swore you went and read their reasoning.
I read changes before in their previous change with their ultimate. This one, I didn't think was that big of a deal. I know Jinx mains will still be sad, but I'll go over the change. So the minigun bonus attack speed has been lowered from 30, 55, 80, 105, 130 to 30, 40, 50, 60, 70. However, she gains additional attack speed per level, starting at 0, 2, 4, 6, and eventually it scales up to 70% to level 18. So at the very end of the game, she'll have 10% more attack speed than before, but early on and through the mid-game, she's going to have less attack speed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
so
minigun is going to have less attack speed. Make sure that you quantify that or qualify that. It's a minigun.
Correct.
Or pow-pow. It's pow-pow, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I've always thought that Jinx's power level has been really good through all stages of the game, especially for a hyper carry. So this doesn't really, I mean, I think this is completely warranted. It doesn't really bother me at all, especially since she's gaining more power late game to become even more of a hyper carry. So I don't see a problem with this. I think it's a very interesting change, seeing as how they're adding a per level component of attack speed.
Right.
Seems like an interesting solution rather than just
to an
kind
ability.
of normalizing the attack speed per level put into it.
What do you max before this change? Punch.
Before this change, I would max Q. That is an interesting thought about whether or not you would max W. I know when she first came out, W did a lot of damage, but they
I don't
addressed
see any
that.
reason not to max Q. Maybe a couple early points in the W, but still, I wouldn't.
But I want to look at the numbers again before I decide on that for certain, because I mean W can chunk some people out. I remember it had a high 80 ratio. I want to double check on that.
Well, yeah.
Back to you.
Well, I should have done the math on this because I should have looked. Because right now, at level 2, at rank 2, you have 42% additional attack speed, down from 55%. So it's
at rank 7 or at level 7, rank 2 will be the same as it was before.
And Zep does have 140% AD.
That's
pretty good. 210 max damage, and the cooldown goes from 10 to 6. I might try a game with that. That'd be interesting to do.
Put that on the parking lot.
Now maybe, but then again, I mean, you want that base attack speed that Q is giving you throughout the mid game. I mean, Q is still giving you more base attack speed. Your attack speed is scaling very slowly per level.
In addition,
yeah, but it's also you
might just miss out on way too much attack speed had you level W first now.
Mid and top Jinx from now on. get your levels just as fast.
You know, at the same time,
Jinx.
I can kind of see where you're going with this, with not putting points right away in the switcheroo, and rather than dumping some of those early points in W, because you are gaining passive attack speed with your level as long as you are in minigun.
A little bit. Yep.
So you are, while you aren't, it is a nerf overall. By what is this level? So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You have 45% in your minigun, and that's it. That would equate to just about level 2 minigun at the same time. So you're losing 10% if you don't, at level 6, if you don't have level 2, you're losing 10% attack speed.
At the same time, chat brings up a good point. When you level Q, you're also getting increased range in your rocket. Mm-hmm. I think Q just gives you too much.
And until
since you're going to have lower attack speed mid-game, and you want the chunks per level that you're still getting. 10% per level you put into Q.
You notice it once you get your attack speed item, too. That's when it starts scaling a little bit better. And when you usually get that.
Yeah, I was trying to see the other side of it, but I think switcheroo is the way to go. Still.
Yeah, I agree. After that,
how does that game go?
That think what is the word for that?
Think
that
tank?
German word.
What?
No, it's German for thick tank. It's like G.
Good.
Oh man.
I don't know. That's a good word.
Dot.
All right, so yeah, Jake's just some power has been removed from her early into mid game, given back to her late game. So if you're a hyper carry, you can still be a hyper carry.
Yep, even more so.
Passive gathering fire on Karma. So Karma has had some pretty good changes. They wanted Karma to. They didn't want Karma to be pigeonholed in support, but they didn't want her. It seems like to me they didn't want her to be a soul laner, but they didn't want her to be a support. So where the fuck do you put her?
They wanted a jungle.
But it's not even a good jungle changes, you know? It's like, okay, what do you want me to do? Passive Gathering Fire, Mantra cooldown refund on spell hit was 2 seconds on all rank. It is now 2.53 at levels 1, 7, 13. Awesome, because being able to get Mantra back more quickly is good. Mantra cooldown refund on basic attacks was 2.5, 1.5, and it's now 1 set. Or excuse me, 1 second at all ranks. It now increases with level 1, 1.25, 1.5. So essentially, between auto attacks and your spells being used, you get your mantra back more quickly. It means you get more ultimates to use, or more R's to use. So right there, I think that's like support. Like right, that says yes, support. Let's give her more. But that also says yes, solo lane, because now I can empower more abilities more quickly.
Doesn't really say yes, jungle, because you have to wait till level 7 to feel this buff.
Right.
Wrecker. On to the next one, though. I want to transition to jungle comment. Focus
resolve. Yeah, focus resolve now can target monsters in addition to champions. And ability power ratio, though, has been increased from 0.6 to 0.9.
OP.
Yeah, pretty damn good, actually.
Wrecker's doing a little dance right now. He can't wait to put Karma in the jungle.
Why would you not do empowered with a Q to, blow up the jungle camps more quickly?
You could also use W.
Yeah, but see, it does help jungle Karma out if you're a wrecker and you want to play it, because you can E yourself and then W the major monster to get get almost 1-to-1 damage on it. I like Cheer over here, just doesn't say anything. He's like, "Fuck, you guys shut up."
That one guy,
our jungler.
I love that we have somebody that will definitely be playing this out of the jungle, because it's not. Yeah, that's exactly why we have to talk about it, because he's going to do it, but it's not going to be that good. So like,
I don't know.
It's so depressing.
For the enemy, for fights in the jungle, you can kind of duck behind the monsters a little bit, try to avoid that.
Well, you know what's really good about this is that you can empower renewal, and it still gives you the life back. So you can empower renewal a monster and gain life back as you're running away.
Man, the applications are endless.
That is a decent change.
That's a good point.
Yeah, so I mean that gives you a little bit of a niche kind of ability usage situation sort of thing if you can't use it on an enemy, because it's almost certain death, and as long as it's not something like the Gromp who's going to hit you if you're low health and kill you anyway, but you might get a little bit of health out of it.
You're using the W renewal on somebody chasing you because put a root on it. Use the renewal now increases the duration of focus resolve's root if triggered by 0.5, 0.75, 1, 1.25. But it no longer deals additional damage when empowered. So it heals and roots.
More utility, see a damage.
Longest CC in the game now. 2 seconds plus 1.25 at max rank. Check out those karma ganks.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, you're right.
The jungle karma ganks.
Holy crap.
I hate this. I hate this.
Rector's going to have so much fun.
Inspire cooldown was 10 at all ranks. Now 10, 9.59, 8.58. So you're going to get more things. You're going to get your,
shield.
You're more shields. Yeah. Cost was 67, 80, 90, 100. 60, 65, 70, 75, 80. Cost has been reduced. Shields. Shield, though, has been decreased from 81, 21, 60, 200, 240 to 81, 10, 140, 170, 200. So it's like all these changes are like support karma.
Nope. Look at the mantra Inspire.
Mantra Inspire. Using Defiance now increases the primary target's shield by 30, 90, 150, 210 plus 0.3 ability power. Was 60, 140 to 2300, 0.6 ability power.
Magic damage, though. It did damage instead of giving you a bonus shield. Now you're shielding whoever you put on it more, but you're not doing the damage.
So only support karma, no damage. Yay.
And the area of effect shield has been lowered from a 30, 70, 110, 150 to 50% of the primary target shield amount. And I assume that also applies to the primary shield, because before, why would the shield amount of the AoE be more than the primary target? Because before it was multiplying by 150%.
You're getting about 50 more at max rank.
Okay.
If you look at it, because she gets an extra 210. Well, it's probably more than that because I'm not factoring in the ability power ratio, but just the flat amount, the 210 at max rank. Plus the 200, that the base shield, you get an extra 210, so that's 410, and then half of that's about 200. So 150 at max rank before, 200, about 50 base value, and then your AP makes that go up even more. So you're harder to kill if you mantra the Defiance. So
I played Karma WoW support, and I mean, I played her and Lulu. I played her and Lulu as support. I've moved on to Lulu more recently, but I've played Karma for pretty much the same reason, which was kind of lane control and poking. But in team fights, Lulu was kind of better at follow-up initiation with her ultimate or counter initiation, whereas Karma was more kitey and avoiding the team getting on top of you because of the AoE shield and speed boost and the W root and AoE slow on Q. I kind of feel like maybe this E change makes that better, and that, the shield is much bigger now. The W root is much longer now, and Q has remained the same.
Well, good point. I think I agree with you only because what we'll talk about, I don't know, later is the coin change.
That too.
So using the coin in conjunction with the shield.
But wouldn't you, because she's a poke support, wouldn't you want the extra damage from the spell thieves?
I don't think your poke has changed though, because Q does the same amount of damage. E no longer doing damage doesn't affect that.
This makes you better at dealing.
You never use W for the damage either, which was removed. So I think her poke is actually the same.
Oh no, I'm not
sure what solo lane karma. I'm not sure how much solo lane karma relied on Mantra W and Mantra shield damage.
You didn't. Solo lane karma was Mantra Q, because Mantra W, you could Mantra W because you could heal, but no, it would change solo lane karma because of the passive changing, which it makes it easier to get your Mantra back more quickly, based on the levels.
More Mantra Qs.
But one, maybe, not even one. You might get one, an extended trade because you still have to auto attack in between. But being able to Mantra W into a root, into a really hefty root, into a Q, shield yourself with a bunch of auto attacks, you could get another Mantra back to potentially W or Q them again. But we're talking like a long extended lane. We're not talking mid lane, because mid lane, by the time that 3, it's not even 3.25 seconds at rank 1. It's 2.5 or 3. Is it 3 seconds? Is it 2? Is it 2 seconds normally? Is that what it is?
Yeah.
So it's 2.
She was 2 seconds before, and now it's 2.53.
Okay. Yeah, see, you see what I'm saying, though? Like, even if you empower it, it's probably not worth your time to empower it at rank 1. It's worth your time to empower it late game when you get that giant root.
Or in the big team fights. You start with the root when they come to initiate on your AD carry, maybe. You can peel with that. And then because of the increased passive, maybe then you'll have Mantra again for a nice shield for your team.
Yeah. Well, see, even so then, you have to put points into Focus Resolve for it to scale, even, because it's 1, 1.25, 1.5, 1.75, 2. So you have to put points in W to scale, and before you're putting points in Q and E, more than likely. So Focus Resolve isn't going to have that fully scale until you're 18.
So you're
so maybe that's the thing that hits solo lane Karma the hardest, is that she has more incentive to, 1, Mantra W late game, and 2, now she has a reason to level all 3 abilities, as opposed to just ignoring W until late. Now W's got a pretty good incentive to level it, whereas E still has a good incentive to level it because of the amount that you're shielding is huge. Yeah. So solo lane Karma's like, well, I really want stats or points in all of these abilities, but I can't do that until late game.
It's hard for me to say where this is going to fall. These all look like support changes on paper to me.
I'm going to hate the shield.
It's weird, yeah. I mean,
I know.
Anytime they really affect the utility like that, it jumps out of support. But and then when I think about it, it's like that damage that you're losing wasn't really being utilized in the first place.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the changes to W aren't going to be utilized because you're going to, if you empower it, you're going to get a 0.5 second stun longer through you're going to get a 1.5 second stun rather than a 1 second stun. Is that 0.5 seconds long enough for Karma to do anything extra? You can't empower your Q to get that extra burst damage, and your primary, your primary use of Mantra was to shield your entire team and speed them up, or to lay down a zone of fire with your Qs. So if you could hit a 4 or 5 man empowered Q, your empowerment's back up. Your ultimate's back up, essentially, if you hit one of those, so that you could potentially RQ, RW, but you got to hit all 5 of them to do that. And how often do we see players get hit by all 5 get hit by a zone of anything?
Interesting changes. I want to play her and try these out.
Does E and her passive, like if you hit multiple people with your shield, does that reduce the cooldown? Like with Q?
So. No, because it's not a spell hit.
Yeah, I wouldn't think so. I would think
it's just a PBA kind of thing.
Yes, and Grime Baby Boy, they removed all the bonus damage from W. It no longer does 75, 150, 225, 300. It no longer
Mantra
deals,
W.
it adds damage. Yeah. So yeah, it makes W
Mantra
shitty.
Well, I mean, you're trading 75 damage for a 0.5 second longer root.
Mm-hmm.
Because you're only losing that damage if you Mantra it.
Hard to say.
Whereas, really? I mean, again, the AP ratio is actually increased on that. Just the base, when you're not Mantraing it, it went from 0.6 to 0.9.
Right.
That's
Right, which is pretty significant once you get to later game. And then here we are talking about solo Karma again. But look at late game when you're level 18 in those late game fights, when 1 kill or 1 pick can mean the game.
That game is looking pretty scary.
You got 1.25 extra roots if you
just got to get that. That's the problem.
Badass.
You got to get that.
Then again, I don't know why I would pick. If I were good for a late game spellcaster, I don't know why I'd pick Karma instead of Cassiopeia.
Oh, you mean for a solo?
Yeah, right.
If I can kill everyone,
that's the choice
or
you're making.
Give a shield.
Right. All this crazy stuff.
Why would you not play Lulu, where you're knocking a ton of people up and giving somebody back initial life, rather than rooting one single person for 3.5 seconds? And you have to sacrifice a lot to get that 3.5 seconds. Like, the trade-off isn't worth it here with that empowered W. Now, yeah, we're focusing on that quite a bit. Inspire having the mana cost difference, but all these changes, again, to me, scream support. They don't scream solo lane. And if you do a solo lane, I feel like you're giving up too much. Now, I feel like somebody's going to come out here, like some pro player, somebody's going to go, oh my god, this synergizes just so well with this item, and then I'm going to make myself look like a fool. But right now, I don't like these Karma changes.
They're buffs. They are buffs. Let's call it what it is. Karma is getting buffed across the board.
Not really, though. I mean, kind of.
You didn't launch W anyway. So
I know.
You have more ability power if you're not monitoring it.
But you're not going to monitor W later. As it is. I mean, you
so
could.
It's buffed. And then passive Gathering Fire, buffed. There's no...
Yeah, the passive is really good.
Yeah. And the Inspire, if you are monitoring Inspire...
you're usually doing defensively.
Right. Buff. So I think she's buffed across the board. Sure, it's kind of weird. You got a little shift of damage a little bit to here, depending on if you mantra, though. If you look at just the base of it, they're all buffs. Cooldown reduction, mana cost reduction, except for E's shield was slightly reduced, but you have to mantra and you get a little bit more of the shield. So, I don't know. She's going to be seen a lot more, I think.
It's hard to tell.
Yeah, it's really hard to tell. Let's talk about Rise. He has some changes here. Arcane Mastery, all buffs, stack, shield, etc. associated with Arcane Mastery now apply at the beginning of the spell's cast time, rather than at the end.
That's such a good change.
That's very.
As is the next change.
Supercharged duration has been increased to 6 seconds at all ranks.
That's huge.
That was my biggest gripe when I first tried him. Was, oh man, 3 seconds is so short, and I have to have my other abilities off cooldown before I trigger it in order for me to cast them immediately afterwards and get that cooldown reduction. Well, now that's not the case. I mean, as soon as you cast that first spell when it hits will trigger Overload's cooldown reduction on your other abilities. So that combined with double the duration early level, that is so nice. That's glorious.
Yeah. A lot more
super
damage.
Annoying because playing against her, I'd always look at the little icon and try to wait it out. Now I got to worry about that level 1 on or level 6 on.
Q Overload damage has been increased 65, 90, 115, 140, 165. It is now 65, 95, 125, 155, 185. So more incentive to put points into Q rather than E, which I think a lot of players were maxing first because of the AoE damage it did. And then there was a nerf last patch to E anyway. What, right?
Yeah, they nerfed they nerfed some of the damage and made it harder to you can't hit as many people in it, or the radius is shorter.
Right, something like that.
I'm pretty sure. I thought the biggest change was. Well, I don't know if it was the biggest change, but I mean they reduced it or they changed it so that Muramana's
that was a huge piece of it. That was a huge piece of it.
Which was, I thought, a niche build.
It was just a niche build. Yeah, it wasn't anything crazy. Desperate Power duration, and then obviously Desperate Power duration 4, 5, 6 to 6 at all ranks. So Rise should be able to spam his abilities more quickly once he hits 6.
Great changes for Rise.
All buffs.
So somebody mentions in chat that he still was having mana problems with Rapid Fire. I honestly haven't played Rise enough to know whether or not that's true, but considering he builds usually a early tier and Cattle Dust,
I can't imagine.
That surprises me that he has mana problems for
I
this.
can't imagine the mana costs are that bad once you get into you have a couple stacks in your tier. By a couple, I mean like 100 to 200.
Well, the other thing is too, like once you get your you just got to be smart about building it and like trying to use spells during the windows that you can build it, which that means not spamming off all your abilities in a very, very short amount of time so that you can get the tier rolling and have the mana to get that tier rolling so that you can do that faster during the mid game.
Right. I see what you're talking about because you're building your tier a little bit faster.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and
you're still at the mercy of its global cooldown, but
yep. I mean, like you don't want to dump like all 3 abilities at once, only get 1 to 2 tier stacks out of it, and then beat You want to like build it up a bit so you have a bigger mana pool with which to draw from before you start spamming out abilities.
Space out the Qs.
Right.
And he's clarified his point where he's saying early game you can't really abuse the 6 seconds on your passive, which is accurate. But it took a long time to get to that 6 seconds before because it increased based on your rank and ultimate.
Well, you should never.
Right.
I don't like the word
You're going to have that
abuse.
6 seconds throughout the entire game now, as opposed to slowly scaling from 3 to 4 to 5 to 6.
Oh, it changes those mid-game teleport dragon fights because I think you're going to run teleport with him just about any lane you go into anyway. Yeah, I mean, there's a case for Ignite mid, don't get me wrong, but teleport on Rise has always been so powerful because you can jump in and root. And yes, like you said, 6 seconds at any point. Any dragon fight, 6 seconds of anything is a lot more time than most champions get to spend their abilities. But I don't like saying abuse because that's like saying Riven can abuse, not Riven. It's like saying any champion can abuse it when they get to 6, that they can use it so often that you're forcing the enemy out of lane, and you're not abusing 6. You are using it you understand it's coming up. You're saving mana for it. You're so skilled that you can last hit with minimal Qs. You can last hit with your abilities, so that you have the mana up for when you hit 6 to abuse that power spike or to abuse the enemy because you have.
It's just easier to properly utilize now.
Right,
I mean, it was really hard to use before.
Yeah, you have a reserve of mana. Any good player is going to know when their power spikes are, and it's going to have a reserve of mana, energy, resource to be able to use at that power spike. And now a good rise will keep enough mana to be able to chain 4 spells in that 6-second period of time. If they're playing well. That and that's just obviously my take on it, but I just don't like.
I agree with the abuse word, not using that, because that's kind of plays into scrub mentality. Because like, ooh, abuse sounds bad. I don't want to abuse something.
Well, Rise isn't abusing anybody.
Right.
Excuse me.
Abuse it.
He's not abusing anybody early game, anyways. He's kind of meagerly poking them.
Meagerly poking him.
Hey, does this hurt? Does this hurt? No. Okay, I'll just go back to farming.
Am I annoying you? I'm not touching you. I'm not touching you now.
Coochie. Oh, all right. You're not laughing.
Let's talk. Oh, I just tried to pull that out. Hey, Chrome, I hate you.
Talk coin.
Yeah, let's talk coin. We're going to talk about the mastery changes next patch, because a lot of this will go back into the mastery changes, and that's a 30-minute conversation in and of itself. Yeah, let's talk Ancient Coin, because Ancient Coin, the bonus gold has been increased to 3 gold per nearby minion death, and the gold collection range has been increased to 1,400. Now, there are changes Nomads and Talisman of Ascension, but we need to specifically focus on Ancient Coin, because unless it was...
Nomads.
Oh, I could...
Because you get that on first back. You said Ancient Coin, the first one, which you hopefully clean out after your
Yes,
Sightstone.
I mean, I guess Nomad you would get, but like I was about to point out that pretty much the only thing you're getting on first back is a Targon's Embrace, because that gives so much gold and health back to your
Look at the differences,
lane.
though.
Oh, I realize it's quite a bit of difference, but as we stand, Targon's was really the only item that you upgrade first. You would probably go into a Sightstone boots or whatever it may be, rather than upgrading your support item first.
Oh yeah. Sightstone always, please do that first.
Nomad's Medallion, 4 gold rather than 3, and health per nearby minion death has been increased to 10. So you're selfish a little bit here. Mana regeneration has been doubled 50%, and gold collection range has been increased to 1,400. To put that into perspective, though, the Spell Thief's Edge, when it holds charges, and it'll deal additional 10 damage and grant 5 gold per stack that is on it. And it's got 3 stacks. If it charges up, so
yeah.
I heard people already talking about using Ancient Coin over Spell Thief's Edge, because the Frost Queen's Claim isn't that great, and Ancient Coin, the Talisman of Ascension, is fantastic.
Yep.
Oh yeah. That's the first thing I thought of when I saw this is,
right.
Well, now I got to start rethinking my support choices. I should probably start thinking in terms of supports that properly use Ancient Coin rather than pokey supports I usually play that use Spell Thieves. I want to start incorporating this. The active is just really good.
It's the lazy man's support item early, and that's why I love it. I'm lazy as hell. I can just sit around and profit.
Yeah, I mean, upgrading them to Nomads just makes laning... Although, again, like you're saying, you're still getting Sightstone first, but I mean, double the mana regeneration, double the health per minion slain, and then you get that active late, which was always good before. I mean, you would still, if you were planning on getting... If you're looking at your team comp and you're thinking, well, we really need a coin, then you're probably going to get it anyways. But now, I mean, it just makes early and laning phase much easier while you're sitting on the coin in the Nomad's Medallion.
It's got a third better cooldown on the activate. It was from 60, now it's 40 seconds.
But with Righteous Glory being so prevalent in this meta right now, do we need Ancient Coin? Do we need that additional engage? I mean, I remember in Season 2, double Shirelia's was freaking amazing, because you could engage and continue to engage your team.
Because you could race car around for X amount of time.
Yeah, I don't think having Talisman and Righteous Glory is a bad thing.
Well, you'd have one to back off and one to go in.
Mm-hmm. I mean, you could always use Talisman to disengage if you need to. Or if your Righteous Glory person isn't there, maybe your top lane is split pushing, he has teleport, and he's not there to use Righteous Glory, then hey, you got Talisman.
And Righteous Glory still has a 60-second cooldown, whereas this is 40 now. So it's up a lot more. 20 seconds faster.
And you can use both.
I'm not
at the
sold
same
on this.
time.
I
for
still
all
don't
this
like.
speed.
I still don't like Ancient Coin in lane. I think this is one of those times where you're gonna have to swap to Nomad's Medallion at some point because you're gonna walk to lane with Frost Queens and then use that to poke with the additional damage and continue. Without the additional damage, I mean, it helps. The additional damage helps is all it does. It's just it's more pressure essentially. So the people that I would pick up Ancient Coin on, I'm either going to pick up a Targon's or I'm going to pick up a Frost or I'm going to pick up a...
But hasn't that always been Ancient Coin's issue, is the fact that it doesn't have any combat stats unlike the other two, but it has by far the best active on the third tier of it out of all of them? This is just one of those situations they didn't really give it combat stats, but you get a little bit more out of it for having it.
And it's got sustain, which the other items don't have. So for poke, I see where Punch is coming from. Double the mana regeneration.
But
so
we
got to
look at. We have to look at the support that you would build this on. That might use this. That like the Talisman Ascension as a support, you're probably using Talisman Ascension to get away from the fight, not to engage the fight.
Janna.
Janna will probably I think this is a good item on Janna because she can
Blitzcrank.
poke. Blitzcrank's going to want Targon's Embrace because he's allowed to get life back and get into positions where he is able to impart his will on the enemy. That's what I'm talking about. Every time you talk about a champion, I see the other items working during that laning phase better than Ancient Coin does, because Ancient Coin gives you no combat stats, like Chira said. Ancient Coin gives you no pressure in lane, while the other two items give you some sort of pressure between healing, extra life, damage, extra gold, yada yada.
And in that same vein, though, and I hate saying it like this because I don't think this is a really good playstyle to draw on, but if you're going to be a pussy support in lane and you're not going to really try and kind of do your job and protect your carry as much as you should, you did get a slight benefit out of getting the coin now because you're going to get a little bit more money out of it. But at that same time, it's you have so much ability to manipulate that lane. Why wouldn't you want to take something with combat stats?
It'll help Soraka sustain a little bit better too. She can spam the heals, help keep the AD carry ahead in trades, getting a little bit more.
Well,
health.
it'll give her a little bit more health back just from.
And then the mana.
Yeah, from the extra health per minion killed. It'll give her more health back to give more HP to whoever.
Right.
And then if she's getting more mana regen, she can spam more Starfall to get more health back on top of that. So
should be good on her.
We need to go look. The end-all be-all for this conversation is to pull up all the supports and look at their base stats, what the mana regeneration and the health regeneration would be based off of. Well, I mean, the health doesn't matter. Health is flat 10. It's more of the mana regeneration on that character is going to be picking it up because it's going to be based off of their base mana regeneration rather than their scaling. Now, something to bring up, though, that I do think this is an item that you'd probably want to build into at some point or trade off into, is that with the new utility masteries that we will get into next week, there is one that gives 20% reduced on activatables, which makes this item 32-second cooldown rather than a 40-second cooldown.
Ridiculous.
And it makes it a
ridiculously... It's pretty much up all the time.
You should have it twice. You should have it twice in a fight with the way fights are going at this, the way team fights are. Team fights are lasting just over 30 seconds, I would say. I won't say on average, but I would say in a lot of pro team fights and whatnot, team fights are extended and lasting over 30 seconds.
Objective dancing, I guess, right?
Man, I think Chet is on point tonight. They're having pretty good discussions. So I mean, they're talking a lot about this Ancient Coin change, and you're saying, still doesn't give combat stats. You still want those stats so you can win the lane, so you can trade, so you can poke people out. And doing that gives you more of an advantage than eventually getting Talisman, or not. I shouldn't say that. Sitting on the mana regeneration and getting slightly more gold per 5, and yeah, I kind of agree with them. Maybe you still will. Gold. Maybe if you're gonna get Talisman, maybe like you said before, opponent, you're still gonna do what you did before, which is build Spell Thieves. And then eventually switch when you need the active.
Yeah, there's really no reason upgrading those items unless it's Targon's Embrace, just to get a little extra bit of life to the enemy and get a little bit more life in your pocket. Because what do the other tier 2 items ever give you? I can't remember. I can't tell you the last time I upgraded Frost Fang without having extra gold in my pocket because I got some kills.
Some more AP, I think.
Right, the last time that I upgraded the Frost Fang, which probably wasn't that long ago, was more than likely because I had extra gold in my pocket. I bought my Sight Stone, I upgraded my Trinket, and I was like, all right, it's time we can upgrade Frostfang because I'm doing so well. But other than that, if I'm playing, I mean, the only support I play is Bard, humorously enough, and that's I'm building Sightstone into boot Moby so I can roam around a lot more. There's always a best case scenario for every champion, and what is the best case scenario? Exerting your will in lane.
And maybe the change this will bring about is people are swapping from that early Frost, or what is it? Is it Spell Thieves at level 1? I keep mixing them up.
Yeah,
Spell Thieves is level 1.
It is. Maybe they'll swap from Spell Thieves to Talisman later more often, just because of the 20 per second or 20-second cooldown reduction on the active, which is so good now. As opposed to people starting with Ancient Coin more.
Well, let's move on and talk about some of these active ones. Ardent Sensor had to change, and man, I'm going to run down and tell you what it is, but this goes back to our last. It goes back to our last conversation our last podcast where we go, when would you build Ardent Sensor? Even through all these changes, at what point as a support would you build this item? Now, Ardent Sensor has attack speed buff, now also grants plus 30 magic damage on hit. Your heals and shield on other units grant them plus 15 bonus attack speed. Magic damage proc shows critical hits, so you actually see it. Remember my conversation about earlier how I was bitching about when you can't see it? You look like you're critically striking every time that you attack now that you have this. So you're gaining 30 magic damage on hit.
For the Ardent Sensor, it isn't that they see it. The support player sees the damage. So the support player actually gets to see the effects of what they're using. So this is one of those situations, like, for all those people who have played support and have done something and been like, man, I really hope what I did helped. You put Ardent Sensor on somebody, and every time that you attack them, or that person attacks somebody and does that bonus damage, you get a thing that pops up that's basically like, the person that you casted this on's doing a good job, and it's because of you that you're doing it.
Hooray!
So you did something. Congratulations. You're the best.
Yeah,
Sorry.
I go back to your original question, which is when do you build this? I think there's kind of it kind of contradicts itself. On one hand, you kind of want to build it late when you have more attack speed because you get flat damage per attack speed, so you get to use it more often with the more attack speed you have later on. But at the same time, if you're putting this on 80 carry, bonus magic damage is not going to scale well into late game because 80 carry builds armor penetration, not magic penetration.
It's flat.
Yeah. So that flat magic damage is going to help early on rather than later. So we come back to the question, when do you build this?
When your support needs a pick-me-up to see that they're doing something helpful.
But the support can build McHale's and save me from a stun, and then when they see that I made it out of there.
But a giant thing doesn't pop up above your head saying, you saved me. Congratulations, your CC's
that's a good point. I really need that. I need that indication.
I would rather.
And this just helps stack with anyone who builds a long or a recurve.
It still sucks
because they get that extra magic.
I would love if you bought a McHale's and you cleanse the CC, and above your head all it says is "nailed it."
Do your heal or shield on a Warwick, and then he ults, and then he's already got those on hit effects, and you're doing 30 extra for the entire ult.
That's how you use this.
Don't
rush it with the Warwick comp.
This no longer works with AoE heals. Alistar cannot give 30 attack damage, 30 magic damage on hit to minions. So AoE, it no longer gives it to everybody.
Ridiculous.
It only works on champions, so all the champions that Alistar E's would work. Bilgewater Cutlass has had an active cast range increased to 550. Blade of the Ruin King. Active attack range 550. I like it.
Extra range.
Bilgewater, my biggest problem with Bilgewater, not so much Blade, but Bilgewater was that it was so short that it was really hard to use. So putting it into my attack range of any person, including Vayne, I can now actually use this item in a trade effectively without being too close to the person.
That said, Jax, please get away from me. Please, Jax, get away from me.
I always felt like Bork had a longer cast range than Bilgewater Cutlass. They did buff Bilgewater Cutlass a few patches ago. The cast range.
Better command cast range increased to 1200. Makes me happier. I can be just 200 units more closer to the while I wait around in base to be able to cast this.
I like your explanation. So the explanation is, all right, so the range said it was 700, but it was really 1000, but now it's 1200. Got it? Okay, Riot. Thanks for that.
I'm going to end it here because there's actually a lot to talk about between utility masteries, super minions, and monster leashing. Like that's an entire episode in of itself between those three.
we'll have
dash nerf.
We'll have a few days to play around and actually talk about them too. So,
as we have made it a
when the patch hits.
tradition, we also talk about Echo. If Echo comes out by next Monday, we will talk Echo on Monday as well. So, Chira.
Hey.
You a little tired tonight?
I'm really tired, man.
I can actually look and tell because you're just like he's sitting there. He's like,
I'm real tired. Though I will say this has been like the patch notes of things that aren't that super interesting to me. So like that
not even Karma Jungle. Come on.
Yeah, that kind of killed it for me. I was immediately just disappointed.
There was mana regeneration changes on Lulu. So
I know, right? Come on.
Just think about the implications, Chira.
No.
Overanalyze it.
Yeah, there's no point in overanalyzing that. One of us.
One of us. All right, I need another beer, and I need to use the bathroom, but I need to play some video games, and that stuff needs to happen.
Don't we all?
All right, guys. You know what? If you like this patch moment discussion, let us know. Feedback at TrinityForcePodcast.com. If you liked us on Patreon, let us know. Feedback at TrinityForcePodcast.com.
Do we even do iTunes reviews anymore?
I have a whole bunch of them we need to go back and read. Like,
oh my!
I have so much stuff I need to do.
Do a review episode.
You know what I need to do? People ask me, what can I do? I'm going to tell the next person to ask me, what can I do? You can put my document together for me. Because I ain't got fucking time to put my document together on top of everything else I'm doing.
Well, now that you said that, you're going to have to go through a bunch of people asking to put your document together. You just add more work to yourself. How's it feel?
God damn it, too!
You can't win. If you want to make Adam mad, tell him that you want to put his document together, and then don't do it.
You know what? I'm going to help you out right here. I'm going to close this out. Join us Monday for the patch 5.10 revisit. We're out, guys.
See ya.
Later.
Say peace!
Or
peace!
Ugh.
Guys, we'll see you later.